Thank you for joining us today for our webinar introducing our managed services plan with lifecycle management. My name is Mara Kadeemer, a marketing coordinator here at Aktion Associates. Just some quick housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded, so you are muted. The link to the recording will be sent to you automatically shortly after the webinar finishes. During the presentation, please use the Q&A feature to ask questions if needed, and we'll answer them during the Q&A session at the end. If you were to have any technical issues, please use the Q&A feature as well, and we will try to assist you. Also, we have provided a post-webinar survey, which is already available in our webinar console, so please fill that out as your feedback is important to us. Our presenter today is Mike Kaufman, VP of our Managed Infrastructure and Cloud Services Division here at Aktion. I'm going to let Mike give himself a little bit more of an introduction, and he's going to take over and get to the content you're looking for. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, thank you so much, Mars. Hey, yes, I'm Mike Kaufman. I'm happy to be giving this presentation today about a subject that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Although I lead our Managed Infrastructure and Cloud Services group today, I started my career as a network engineer, and so the management and the support and the refreshing of equipment have always been tasks and responsibilities that are near and dear to my heart. So having the opportunity to talk with you today about how we've improved our managed services offering by including some lifecycle management is something I've been looking forward to. So I appreciate you all joining us. I'm going to kick us off with a little bit of a kind of a refresh on the value of managed services overall, and we'll jump into some other topics about Aktion and about this particular aspect of managed services as we go forward. So managed services in general, not everyone is familiar with the concept. It's kind of become the primary mode of IT support for a lot of companies, especially over the past 5 to 10 years, where in the early times of having an IT provider, it would be a guy that you called when something broke, came over and took a look, worked to fix it. In the industry, we called that, funnily enough, break fix. Then other companies provided internal IT teams that again kind of address things on an as needed basis. But as technology evolved, the need to maintain, the need to apply patches more frequently, the need to ensure that equipment was up to date, those cycles grew closer and closer together to where the patching requirement, the cadence of those patches needing to be applied has become nearly constant, at least weekly and sometimes more frequently than that. Microsoft has their big Patch Tuesday, updates that they'll frequently push out in the middle of the week. Come in Wednesday and find, things have rebooted and things are a little different. So managed services is a way for IT support providers to kind of, evolve alongside those needs. To provide that more constant, more continuous level of IT support. And typically managed services are, contracted outside of a company. So your organization might work with a company like Aktion to engage engineers, to engage specific products and tools that can help keep everything patched, current, with a minimal attack surface, or to minimize, cybersecurity risk, and to make sure that everything continues running in an optimized fashion. So this really, for a lot of companies, allows them either to grow their staff, by augmentation, or to simply have an outsourced IT department altogether. Allowing them to focus really on their own core business functions, whether you're a construction company or a distributor, or you're an architectural engineering services organization. Having someone else mind the store, to take care of the keeping everything running and keeping it optimized, allows a business to focus really on their true reason for being. It can reduce IT costs overall. You can have access to a whole team of engineers for the cost of a single engineer, and the whole team won't take vacation at the same time, so you don't have to worry about managing potential gaps and coverages, or at least having a partner to help you through those things if you maintain an internal IT team. So and then of course you get a wider array of experience with a larger number of folks. So with that comes the ability to identify problems maybe that they've seen before in their experience. You have that greater wealth of experience to draw upon. So really, overall managed services, contracting out for either staff, addition, co-management, or really having someone else run the entirety of your IT support allows you to enhance your operational efficiency, can allow you to grow more quickly if you need to, and really makes your business a little more agile. So a lot of high value in managed services overall. Now, in terms of Aktion, we are an organization that's been focused on growing this space for over a decade. Uh, a number of folks came over to Aktion with an acquisition as we started to grow our managed services practice, and it has gone, it has evolved and it has grown since then to become one of the largest or fastest growing divisions in our business. So with that said, I'd like to talk a little bit about Aktion overall. From the list that I saw, most of the folks on the call are Aktion customers already. But what you may not know is that if you're partnered with Aktion today in one of our value-added reseller or ERP divisions, that Aktion actually started out as a managed or as an infrastructure sales company. Back in 1979, we were partnered with IBM and partnered with a number of other vendors and really out there working to sell equipment and infrastructure. And it was quickly realized by leadership that working to partner with specific industries and specific applications gave us a couple of really important business strategic advantages. It helped us to specialize in how to configure servers or endpoints or network connections for a specific ERP or for a specific industry, knowing how a construction company operates, knowing the needs of a wholesale distributor in terms of warehouse logistics or in terms of connecting shipping computers. So Aktion has really grown out of a core business of managing infrastructure. And we've evolved to become one of the largest value-added resellers in each of the other divisions that we have. So for construction real estate management, for wholesale distribution, for architectural engineering services, and as we're growing today into manufacturing. So what's great about this sort of shared growth, between the software side of the house and the hardware side of the house, is that our engineering staff, our network engineers, have grown into these industry levels of expertise. They've grown alongside the application consultants and the software engineers, knowing the needs of our specific customers. So our experience, not just in general IT, not just in network engineering, but in knowing how those technologies are applied for our specific customers and the industries that they're in, really gives us an advantage and gives us a high level of quality that we can offer to our customers in terms of managed services. So I'd say, it's like the legs of the stool. We've got our industry expertise, we've got our software expertise, and we have our hardware managed infrastructure expertise as well. Providing a great offering. So a little bit about some of the accolades that Aktion has received. Our managed service program has been recognized by the channel company here for I think 4 to 5 years running. We've been in the MSP 500. We've been in the Explorer 250. We've this business is one that we've had a high level of focus on as we continue to grow and evolve. And it's been interesting here. We've recently included a lot more cybersecurity risk management offering in our managed services programs. But overall, Aktion continues to grow. We're over 220 employees. We've got 6,500 customers that we serve today in terms of software, hardware, cloud services. We are nationally recognized by, I think, every vendor that we work with, from the Sage side to Infor to Deltek. We are, in the top, if we're not the leading reseller, we are in the top 3 for each of those categories. have built out a great cloud services business so we can host legacy applications as needed. Those that haven't yet made the move to a SaaS implementation, we can get folks to the cloud without them having to change any of their ERP technology. Overall, we're rated as one of the top 20 VARs in North America. And we're a great place to work. And I love to point that out because we've been for a few years running now recognized as a great place for employees to spread their wings and advance their careers. So with that said, I'll talk a little bit about endpoint management. So, being so closely tied to network infrastructure, one of the places where customers find the most impact for their technology is the machine that they sit in front of. So a laptop or a PC, making sure that those machines are current, that they're supported, and that they are really a tool that enhances staff productivity is a key piece of what a network or IT support resource should be focused on. So what we find is that a lot of times, given business pressures, given initiatives that have a high level of focus, giving just the high pace of day-to-day activity in a lot of our customers, not a lot of attention is sometimes paid to how equipment is aging, whether it's under warranty, and maybe it is very visible to each of the end users that has to deal with a PC that's 6 or 7 years old. Maybe that's not always a key focus of management, and so we as a managed services provider have always included in our communications with our managed services customers an inventory of existing equipment. Hey, here's a list of all the PCs or laptops or servers that you have in your organization that we manage today. This one's getting a little long in the tooth, and we'd recommend budgeting that, for next year. These 5 laptops might be, out of warranty for the last 6 months, and or they might be coming up on a warranty renewal, and we typically will offer in those conversations a plan to keep coverage on a case-by-case basis. But if those conversations don't lead to a change or a refresh, what we find is that aging machines can slow performance, slow productivity, and the infrastructure itself, if the switches are an older generation, and switches are the kind of thing that we find a lot of folks, hey, those things will run forever. And it's true, in some cases they will run, but what happens is that the pace of demand outstrips their capacity. Maybe, the speed of the internet has increased year over year. Speeds, higher levels of bandwidth become less expensive. Companies are adopting, greater internet connections. Maybe they're looking to move to the cloud, and they're talking about, hey, we should probably have more than one internet service provider. Maybe we should aggregate those. Maybe we should use some intelligent routing to help our traffic, remain optimized. We've moved to an internet phone system or VoIP, and that traffic needs to be at the highest level so we don't sound like robots, or so that the sound of our voice doesn't stutter when we communicate with others over the phone. So dated infrastructure can be a real risk, and it can risk both your productivity, but it can also introduce the risk of a cybersecurity compromise or a security incident. So there's always those folks out there that are trying to figure out, how can they make a buck off of taking advantage of a security vulnerability, off of someone who isn't protecting themselves adequately. And one way is to find old pieces of software or hardware that are no longer maintained or managed, and then find chinks in their armor, dated as it is, and then figure out how to leverage those chinks to gain control, to gain access to data, to to steal it, exfiltrate it, and then potentially either ransom it back or to sell it on the dark web. So data infrastructure can introduce that risk, and it's something that you want to absolutely have your eyes on. Managing diverse endpoints can be a real challenge as well. So one of the things that we see a lot is that, in a high-paced business, and a lot of our customers, really do keep themselves very busy, as we do here at Aktion. And as a result, maybe it's the case that the turnover or hirings and firings within the organization lead to a need for, hey, we need a laptop right now, or we need a PC right now, and we don't have time to order one and get it in. This person started yesterday. We don't have the equipment for them, and what do? They send someone out to Best Buy and CompUSA, or whatever the local technology store is, and they pick up something they think is gonna work. And a lot of times they end up with, because of that, a challenging infrastructure with a lot of different brands, a lot of different capabilities, sometimes not even the right types of operating systems for management. So it can be a real problem. And then, the act of planning and budgeting for those hardware refreshes itself, tracking all the PCs or laptops or, endpoints that we have in the organization, making sure that we have clear visibility into when those things should be replaced, when the warranties expire, are we keeping those up, or what is so the act of doing that itself without the right tools, we're going to go to the Swiss Army knife of business, Excel, a lot of times, and then try to keep track of it from there. It can be challenging. It's one of the nice things about managed services. At the very least, there's an agent helping to track, warranty expiry and operating system install dates and those type of things. So, you get some insight into it there. But, for us, we've actually put together a plan, a real strategy to tackle this using some of the managed services tools that we have today. So we're calling that. And maybe I should talk a little bit about our managed services program tiers before I jump into talking about Plus, which is the kind of the pinnacle of our offering. So, for those of you who are managed services customers today, you're probably familiar with the fact that Aktion offers a proactive plan, which is really good for co-management. If you have an internal IT team, or you have an IT resource on site that needs a little help, but you've decided, you've not decided to hire additional staff internally, maybe you just need a technology partner. Proactive is a really good program for that. And with the Proactive program, we'll work with you to deploy our remote monitoring and management tools, some pretty good security tools. We will offer optionally some email security and password management, a few other tools I'll talk about later. But if there's an issue, if one of the tools reports a problem, your internal staff has a chance to go ahead and resolve that on their own, or to reach out to the Aktion engineer or engineers that are assigned to your account and get some help. The Proactive plan, has that outreach as you choose and pay as you go for as much support and help as you might need from those engineers. Our Ultimate plan is a little bit more of I'd say, comprehensive program. So the Ultimate plan includes that support, the issue resolution, and those types of things in the monthly fee. So that's a great way to ensure that you kind of get full coverage and full management in a case where maybe you aren't leveraging internal staff to handle some of those issues, or that doesn't fit your model. So with those two kind of as the base programs for Aktion's managed services, Ultimate Plus is a step beyond. It includes what was normally or previously project work, new PCs coming in and being deployed to staff, refresh of existing PCs. What we're doing is we're actually taking that what was previously project work to refresh and deploy new PCs to your existing staff during that, and we're including that in the monthly fee as well. And with that is a plan to help us get to a best practices refresh cycle to help you get to that place, so that you have both met the requirements of a 5-year refresh plan for every piece of equipment in your organization, and you've done it in a way that staggers any of that budgeting across the entirety of the 5 years. So this is, we're pretty excited about this offering. It's a new level of collaboration at a strategic level between the Aktion Managed Services team and our customers. So it's a very intentional, deliberate strategy for identifying PCs that need refresh each of a 5-year cycle, moving those PCs to that refresh cycle, and then executing the refresh. So with that, you get us using some advanced deployment tools and strategies, and we can help you make sure that no PC in your organization reaches that 6th birthday, which you want to avoid, because again, it can cause slow performance, it can cause frustration for the users that have those older machines, and it can cause potential security vulnerabilities, based on whether or not that equipment is still being appropriately updated by the vendors. So we've kind of evolved from what I described earlier as a spreadsheet of here are the computers, or here are the endpoints and PCs and laptops that that you might want to focus on today, and gone to a place where we're evaluating the entire fleet, and then setting really solid expectations between us as to this is where we should be each of the next 5 years in terms of budget, helping to lay those things out and to get our arms around what our spend might look like. So the idea is that a 5-year refresh cycle really is kind of the absolute minimum, and we can work with customers who want something a little shorter. In some cases, heavy field laptops that are under heavy use might experience a little more wear and tear. So those are the types that you would want to keep under warranty for the full 5 years, or even replace more frequently. But ideally, we at least adhere to this minimum best practices of a 5-year refresh for endpoints. And if you take 100% of your fleet and you divide it by 5, you end up with 20%. And we can help work to a place where we're refreshing 20% of the fleet every year. So again, this does a number of things. It shows your team members that are using the equipment a commitment to staying current. It keeps them operating at speed and hopefully at max productivity. It minimizes any kind of waits or slowness or downtime, and it's a really good practice overall. And so we've designed this particular aspect of our managed services UltimatePlus program around that 5-year model. So what we'll do is we'll sit down with customers that are looking to move to this model, and we will basically evaluate the fleet in terms of age, in terms of the OS level, Windows 10, Windows 11, is it a home edition? Is it a pro edition? Where is it a enterprise edition? What fits our management model? What are the specs? What is the age of the Intel processor generation that's in the machine? What is the RAM? How does the disk fit our current strategy? Each of those is a criteria that we'll evaluate individually. We'll assign each of the endpoints kind of a score, and then basically categorize them out in terms of the 5-year program that we're looking at. So this is a way to take kind of what can be a very diverse fleet in terms of onboarding date, or in terms of operating system install date, and put them into categories that we can then use to drive our budgeting and to drive our purchasing. So this is really great because it allows us to take a look at the year as a whole and determine what's going to need to be refreshed. Potentially with a high enough number, we can leverage some pricing and tier discounting with our vendors to help lower the cost of purchasing those endpoints. And also it helps to manage the sort of vendor sprawl. It keeps you with a single vendor to work with in terms of your endpoint fleet, and really it can help standardize that fleet overall. So instead of having Acer and Asus, and here we have a Lenovo or an HPE or a Dell or a Samsung, what this program can help you do, really driving a controlled and intentional buying strategy. You can lower the number of brand names that you have in your fleet, which can help you create some standard, or help you create some standardization as well in terms of rollout. So in terms of that, once you've identified the endpoints that are targeted for replacement in year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, knowing that the deployment services of those replacements are going to be included in your monthly contract, you don't really have to create any kind of budgeting process for services or project work associated with that. I'd tell you, how are we going to make this as efficient as possible? So we'll develop maybe 3 models of endpoint. We've got our best practices here, kind of documents kind of lined out with specs for different roles. But we'll work with you to determine, hey, what does an executive machine look like? What does a field machine look like? What does a standard machine look like? And we'll have those. We'll identify, as you look to perform your replacements or you look to perform your refresh, we'll identify with you, which of the models matches the role best. Of course, you can override that, but it makes sense to go with the recommended stuff. We'll deploy according to our best practices, so to include all of the security tools that you've elected for, all of the authentication tools that you need, and all of the packages and software that you need. We will bring those on as we deploy, again, as part of this program. And then of course, security is a huge piece of that. So all of the tools that we use to manage the infrastructure are part and parcel of that as well. So I guess an overview of this really is that that refresh process. We are working through procurement. We're simplifying the choices. We're helping you standardize your fleet, and we are performing our standard services to onboard, and then also support, maintain, and make sure that from start to finish, this deployment runs as smoothly as possible with as little disruption as possible for your staff. So this is something that we're finding a lot of interest in, and it's growing pretty quickly. So I talked a little bit about reduced vendor administration, and that's not just in terms of standardizing your equipment or standardizing the vendors within your endpoint fleet, but really giving you a single point of contact for all of those needs as well. So having Aktion sort of manage any variety of vendors on the back end to bring you exactly what you need can simplify the whole process and give you less headaches in terms of making a whole lot of deciding from a whole lot of options there and managing a bunch of invoices and those types of things. The other thing is, we've been doing this for over a decade, and realistically managing hardware for over 40 years now, and with that expertise we can help you get the right equipment for the job. We can make sure that using those role-based definitions, we can make strong recommendations for a starting point, but we can also tailor that to your needs as is required. So reduce your cost, make it an easier process, manage your equipment, and then get to a place where you don't have one year that has a much higher or unexpected IT spend on equipment because we have this distributed across the entire refresh cycle. So in the plan, our monthly fees for proactive, those fees cover basically our tools, but for UltimatePlus, the monthly fees cover all of the software deployments, remote monitoring and management, all the security tools that we've put in place. They include issue resolution, support for the products that you have in place, support for your 365 environment. They can include, password management tools and multi-factor authentication. They include DNS filtering if that's needed. We've got a managed services tool that manages, it tracks all of the changes made to the products that you have in place, to your 365 environment, to your endpoint protection environment, to your DNS filtering, to your firewall configurations, even your physical firewalls on site. This service will actually track all of those things, any changes, which is, it's a great tool because it allows us, if you have an issue, to report, hey, so this stopped working as of 1:30 on Tuesday. Is there something you can do to help us out? We can actually go look at this change tracking tool and find out if any changes were made to the firewall, to the 365 configuration, to a whole suite of products and services that we're monitoring. And if we can identify a change timely to the issue that you reported, we can get to the heart of it much more quickly. So all of these things are included. And with UltimatePlus, the procurement and the deployment of your refresh is also included. And what we'll do is, in order to make all of that work the way that it should, we'll help you, schedule a 20% a year refresh for 5 years, and then work to, again, procure and deploy those items for you. So it's a little different than what we've used before, right? And what we've seen in the past is either ad hoc, Bobby's been complaining about his laptop, for a couple of months now. I guess it's time to get him something new. Or, we've these machines. We just realized we have 8 machines that we purchased in a bunch, back in 2018, and they've really reached end of life. We need to purchase those here now. This gives you a lot more direct control, intentional strategy around buying and refreshing your endpoints. So that gives you a greater stability in your IT budget, and gives you some better expectations overall as to what your spend will be in a given year. So we recently had a customer who came to us, a construction company in the Northeast, and they were really struggling with managing their endpoints. So they didn't have a plan. They didn't approach the purchasing of endpoints with a plan. It was, hey, we have a sudden need, and we need to get something. It's urgent. We have somebody starting tomorrow or started today, and we don't have equipment for them. And they were doing exactly what I described earlier in the call, running out to Best Buy or running out to their local, whatever was easiest. Maybe they were ordering off of Amazon, catch as catch can. The people that were doing the ordering weren't necessarily of a high technical level, so maybe they had been given a quick list. It needs to have an i5 processor, or it needs to have 16 gigs of RAM, or whatever the case might be. And they ended up with machines that were running Microsoft Windows Home Edition. They had machines that weren't really they couldn't be brought into the Active Directory, or couldn't be brought into a fully managed capacity. They had all kinds of vendors, some of lesser quality than others. The warranty status across the board was nearly unmanageable, because there were so many different numbers to call if there was an issue with a machine. There were so many different levels of support. Some were had to send the machine back, let them fix it, and then return it. Some were on site. Some were for a year. Some were for 3 years. Anyway, that variety was something that really left everyone feeling like they were fending for themselves. Each user, kind of didn't really have anyone to lean on or rely upon. So, we took over that account as a managed services provider, and we're able to sit down with them and talk through some of the changes that they would need to make in order to get this sprawl, in order to get this chaos under control. And it required a very deliberate intent to do that. It required a strategy, but we were able to help them. And so, we're bringing them on to a plan where they do have that 5-year refresh cycle in mind, and we're taking those machines that are least compatible with where they want to be, moving them to the refresh cycle right at the very front, and getting those decommissioned, replaced with much more viable equipment, and working with them through the cycle to drive this overall. Their users now have the ability that they have new and standardized equipment. Every once in a while in those diverse, where you have so many different kinds of computers, you have this other idea of folks, looking over at the laptop of the PC, or really the laptops mostly of their coworkers, and having a little envy about it being newer or nicer or better brand or those types of things. This helps eliminate all of that kind of stuff too. But realistically, they ended up with a plan, and one that they could communicate to their staff about how they had taken steps to improve the refresh process, and how they had really executed along the lines of that plan, and so everyone kind of knew what was going to happen from there, and things started working as expected. So no more complaints, no more issues, and we're working our way through that 5 years, and at the end of the 5 years, we'll begin it again. Those machines that were purchased 4 years ago will be on the slate for replacement the next year. So really a high level of success there. We've enjoyed working through that process with that customer, and we look forward to doing it with many more. So how can you take advantage of this offering? So I'd tell you, reach out to your Aktion sales rep for managed infrastructure. We used to call the division the Technology Business Unit, TBU, if you've been with us for a few years. We renamed here a year or two back to Managed Infrastructure and Cloud Services, or MIX. So you'd want to talk to your TBU or MIX rep about either taking your existing managed services plan and moving to the UltimatePlus plan, or getting on board, having us work with you through our IT discovery process, getting an assessment, doing a couple of interviews with key personnel to get an idea of where your pain points are, where are your areas of risk, and then putting together a plan to bring your network, into kind of an optimized state, and getting you on board with, getting some engineers assigned and getting you on board with our management process. So typically, we have put some fences around that process to ensure that it doesn't take longer than 2 weeks to run through our technical assessment, to run through our key interviews, and then to provide a full, both a plan for updating, modernizing, refreshing, and streamlining your network, and to get you on board, to get you an idea of what that looks like, and who you might be working with. So if you don't know who your Aktion MIX rep is today, I will have my contact information here at the end of the call, and I would love for you to reach out to me as well. I can get you connected. I can stay connected with you through the process. Be happy to help guide that technical assessment, help guide that some of those interviews. I love to hear about the business changes and challenges that our customers face. Staying in front of that is such an important piece of what we do here. And I think that brings us to the Q&A section of our call. So I'd ask, did we get any good questions coming?
Yeah, no, great presentation, Mike. Thank you for that. We're, like Mike was saying, we're going to roll into the Q&A session. Looks like we have one, but if anybody can think of any questions that they want answered directly as of right now, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A session. The question we have right now is, can we get a copy of the presentation? And that is totally doable. If anybody would like the copy of the presentation, we can get that to you. The other question that we have is, you talked about a standard refresh cycle around 5 years. Do we need to update all of them at once, or can we spread it out?
Oh, that's a good question. So realistically, you can do it either way, but we recommend spreading it out. And so the idea is that we would take the existing fleet, and now if they were purchased all at once, it can be a little more difficult to spread them out over time, but we will help you based on the specs and based on the age of the equipment, I'd highly recommend moving those to a 5-year cycle with 20% being purchased each year. So we can spread it out. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. We have another question. Do we have to buy the computers through Aktion?
So with this program, if you're interested in having us include the deployment of the refreshed machines, yes, we would be the provider. The procurement and the deployment is included in that monthly fee. So yes, we would have you purchase through us.
Awesome. It looks like that's all the questions we have, but doesn't mean that it has to be the last of them. So if anybody has any last minute questions, go ahead and submit those. If you don't have any questions right now, that is totally fine. But if you have one later on, feel free to contact Mike or I directly. Your company's sales rep will also be in touch with you soon, so they'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. As a reminder, we provided a webinar survey, so please fill that out as your feedback is important to us. Oh, we have one more question before we wrap up. Let's see. Is this program just for workstations, or does this also cover our servers, switches, and other things?
Today, we've rolled out the program for endpoints. So that's workstations, PCs, and laptops. We find that those are the machines that most need a strategy overall for a percentage being replaced a year. Typically, our servers and switches and other hardware items can be scheduled and budgeted for refresh, but we haven't included those refreshes in we haven't included that project work in the managed services program, simply because I think in many cases, replacing a server has a lot of project work associated with it, and depending upon what's installed on it, depending upon what the function is. Those are projects that we want to approach, again, kind of as a discrete piece of our program, and make sure that we give each aspect of that particular refresh the attention that it's due.
Perfect. Okay, so it looks like that's it for all the questions. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. We want to say thank you for joining us today. As I was mentioning, if you have any questions later on, Mike's contact information is on the screen now. And if you want mine, it's going to be in any of the registration emails or the reminder emails that you all received. With that being said, we want to thank you all for joining us today and hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Thank you again, Mike.
Hey, thanks everyone. Appreciate you being here.